Spirit, speak to me, speak through me, and dissolve in me that which ought to let go. Mm. So, it is Monday, the 30th of January, 2023. It is 5:26 p.m. I've come to you to talk about enlightenment. Now, I've come to the realization that no experience is any better than any other experience. Pleasure is not better than pain. Getting what you want is not better than not getting what you want. And for me, the thing that I think is important is enlightenment. And so I remind myself that enlightenment is not better than confusion. You will learn in your moments of confusion. You will learn from your mistakes. Your evolution is inevitable. And so you don't need to get enlightened. It's not important. But if you want to try to get enlightened, that is one way to learn. And you have choices. And you can choose. You're going to learn on this planet in this incarnation. But you can choose methods. And you can learn through love, or you can learn through fear. You can learn through a pursuit of enlightenment, or you can learn through being confused. You're going to learn. I don't think you can really choose not to learn. I think your learning, your evolution, your expansion is inevitable. But if you have preferences, then you may as well learn from the thing that you prefer, because you do have choices. And so, if you, like me, have decided that enlightenment would be pretty neat, and it was something that you like, something that you would enjoy doing, keep listening to these different teachers, the most appropriate teachers for the moment. And the universe lines me up with them. And thank God for YouTube, because I can't imagine, like 150 years ago, the wealthiest person on the planet didn't have the access to the level of information and entertainment that the average blue-collar worker has today in America. And so I do consider myself very lucky to have access to these streams. But I listen to these different teachers. Swami Rama is my favorite new one. And I just love his name because it sounds like a festival for gurus. Like, come on down. Enlightenment's half off on Sunday. 2 for 3 miracles. 2 for 2 miracles for the price of 3. So okay, down here only at Swami Rama from Thursday to Monday. But no, that's his name, Swami Rama. The Indians, they always have the funnest names. But anyway, I listen to these spiritual teachers, and they always talk about freedom. Freedom. And the word's been so overused and so diluted that I started asking, what? Freedom from what? Exactly. Freedom from what? This was my question. It was it was a powerful question within me. Freedom from what? And I put it out to the universe, and I have these conversations with the universe. And as you well know, clarity often comes in the shower. And so it's no different for me. Having shower thoughts, these thoughts are clear thoughts. They're thoughts about things that, you get in the shower, the hot water runs over you, it's pleasurable, it's relaxing. And sometimes clarity comes. And it came through, and it said suffering. It said freedom from suffering. That's it. This is what all the spiritual teachers, I can't speak, spiritual teachers are talking about. They're talking about freedoms from suffering. And what is suffering? Where does it happen? The suffering happens in your head. Like pain on unpreferred circumstances, inevitable in life. You're going to have, unless you can manage not to have any preferences, you're going to have circumstances that are against your preferences. Pain you're going to have. suffering, you don't have to suffer because you get to decide whether or not to be in resistance to the thing. And so, to me, like the Buddha, Siddhartha Gautama, he said, we suffer because we desire. And this stuck in my craw for a long time. For a long time, I tried not to desire. Turns out, when you don't want to do anything, this is called depression. And so, like, I found that completely removing desire from my life made me not function well. So this is no good. And for a while, I thought, well, maybe there's a better place for the motivation to come from. And I still think that that might be a little bit of the case. Like, inspiration and motivation are very different from each other. And so it's much better to be inspired than it is to be motivated. But I still think you could look at inspiration as a form of desire. And so it came to my attention that the Buddha wrote, well, the Buddha didn't write anything. His followers wrote everything down, because he was wise and he knew that as soon as you write something down, it gets old and it dies. And the truth is living. It's in the moment. Reality is constantly changing, and you can't possibly write it down and expect it to still be true in 10 minutes, let alone 2,500 years. Anyways, it was written down 2,500 years ago. It's gone through many translations. And so desire is a bit of a vague word. And what the Buddha was referring to was a little more specific. Attachment and aversion are also terms found in Buddhism, and they're a little bit more specific, and they explain this much more better. They explain it better because basically nothing is static. Everything's moving. The world's on fire. Your body's aging. The trees are getting bigger and older, and the grass is growing, and the tectonic plates are shifting, and nothing is stationary, and the molecules are vibrating, and like, because of your frame rate, you might think that things are stable and stationary, but they're not. Everything's moving, everything's changing, everything's always in flux. And so this means that things are either coming to you or they're going away from you. So if something is coming to you and you don't want it, you go, I don't want that to come to me, and you try to push it away. This is aversion, and it's suffering. When things are going away from you, naturally as they do, like your youthful beauty that you had when you were 16 years old, it's gone, and you're still trying to fucking be that flower. You're different. You're different now. You've changed. And if you're trying to hold on to it, you start getting liver spots on your hand, and you're like, oh, but I'm supposed to be young. That's a little bit of aversion to the liver spots, but it's also attachment to the youth, and that's suffering. And so, like, or, somebody, a divorce, or a relationship that ends, and somebody doesn't want to be with you anymore, and they shouldn't be with you anymore because it's not fun anymore. It's not productive. It's not good for anybody. But you don't want to let it go. That's attachment. It's time to die, and you're not ready to die. And so you're like trying to hold on to life, and you suffer for an extra 6 months. You could have just died and moved on, been at peace. That's attachment. So we got aversion, we got attachment. These are both forms of suffering. And then there's also preconceptions. And basically everything changes all of the time. And so if you think you know what it is, and therefore you hold the idea as your reality rather than looking to see what it is, sort of like object permanence, it's helpful because it takes a lot of energy to see everything as new all of the time, but it is new all of the time. And so to the degree that you can manage it and you can move through the world seeing everything is new all the time, I mean, that, to me, that's probably enlightenment, because if you have this idea that things are the way that they were, they're not. Nothing is the way that it was. Sometimes it changes to something very similar to what it was before, but it's always moving. So you have these preconceptions and you don't see things the way they are. And so you start to see the picture being painted here is that there's suffering. And the opposite of suffering is freedom from suffering, which includes happiness, naturally. Happiness is kind of the result of it, but it also includes a sort of total acceptance of things the way that they are, a non-resistance to the way that things are, which includes seeing things as they truly are, happiness, freedom, and clarity. Happiness, freedom, and clarity. That's what enlightenment is, as far as I can tell. Happiness, freedom, and clarity. And the third Chinese patriarch of Zen said that truth waits for eyes unclouded by longing, which is to say that if you want things to be a certain way, then you have a bias, and that bias um, makes it harder to see things the way they are. And if enlightenment is your goal, seeing things the way they really are is your goal, and so clarity is your goal, and so clarity and happiness and freedom from suffering and non-resistance, these things all go very well together. And so if you want to get enlightened, if you want to be enlightened for a short period of time or a long period of time or a time that's longer than that, then you should not think that you know things are the way that they are without looking at them. You should not think that you already know the way that things are going to be. You should know that you don't know anything. And in that space, allow your seeing to write the new moment in the way that it truly is. You should not try to hold on to anything that is going away, and you should not try to push anything away that is coming towards you. And I think if you manage to not have any aversions, not have any attachments, not have any preconceptions, then you will have freedom, and you will have clarity, and you will have happiness. As far as I can tell, that's enlightenment. But what do I know? I'm a trickster and a fool.